What is up, metal and heavy music fans? It's Flight of Icarus again with MetalTrenches.com, and today we have a review of Cannibal Corpse and Violence Unimagined via Metal Blade Records. And hey, if you like to be kept up to date with the best and brightest metal bands and albums from the underground and above, then stick with me by hitting that subscribe button down below. Now, in case you've somehow been living in a cave, although I suppose we all kind of have been for the last year, Cannibal Corpse is a death metal band formed in 1988 and one of the big driving forces of the genre's so-called Florida scene. Violence Unimagined is the band's 15th album in their 32nd year of existence, and the first to feature guitarist Erik Rutan of Morbid Angel, Ripping Corpse, and Hate Eternal as part of the full-time lineup in addition to production duties. Says the band of the record, "I think we all pushed ourselves a bit technically on this one, with Paul probably pushing the hardest. This album is probably the most drum intense we've done yet. Part of that could be a result of Erik joining the band. His songwriting style often features technically challenging drumming, probably owing to his years of experience in high-speed death metal." Now, while I tend to joke that every Cannibal Corpse album sounds like a Cannibal Corpse album, and let's face it, they all do, don't get it twisted, I greatly enjoy this band's output, especially over the last decade or so. In fact, hot take alert, I actually consider A Skeletal Domain to be their finest work to date.
Why would you say something so controversial yet so brave?
And while Red Before Black didn't quite live up to that same hype for me, a new release from this band is always a cause to just headbang with relentless abandon. Violence Unimagined is no different, and whether it's in part due to the addition of Erik, this may have some of their heaviest tracks so far. And speaking of drums, Murderous Rampage goes straight for the throat with machine gun blasts of rolling snare and grinding riffs. Honestly, I thought I accidentally put on a Napalm Death or Pig Destroyer album when this song hit, and fuck did I love that was my response. I was like, oh shit, we are in for it this time. The love for this one was instantaneous, and yeah, it's still your typical Cannibal Corpse, but goddamn, do they still hack motherfuckers up like they're still in their 20s. And Corpse Grinder sounds more pissed and demented than ever. Like seriously, there are parts of this song and really all over this album where he just belts it out and just lets loose in a way that I had not actually necessarily heard from him before. And I also love that little melodic riff that's sprinkled amidst the chugging destruction. It adds a little extra flavor and just brings a little bit more dynamics to the arrangement. It helps give the track a little bit more of an extra personality that helps each one kind of stand out. And if that track wasn't heavy enough for you, they follow it up with the instant favorite Necrogenic Resurrection. On this one, between the earworm, melodeath, palm-muted picking, and the raging solo, this is every death metal guitarist's wet dream. It even has a carcassy vibe to some of the riffs, and just goddamn, they are incredible. Fantastic. Honestly, this is probably my favorite song on the album. And then there's that thrashy part towards the end. Mind you, this is just track 2. There's also, of course, lead single Inhumane Harvest, which maybe surprisingly I wasn't that into actually when it dropped. I saw it pop up in my feed, I was like, oh sweet, new Cannibal Corpse, and then I listened and I was kind of like, eh. I didn't have that like immediate attachment to it, but eventually that fluttery guitar hook really did get lodged into my brain like a good lobotomy. Which brings me to a key point in that hooks matter, especially when you make this kind of music. You gotta have those guitars that stand out, those little moments that let each song kind of like stick in your brain and become memorable. Otherwise they all start to blend together. Same goes for really memorable vocal lines, which on this one is that great syncopated "Everything must go! Everything must go!" And by the way, side note too, they did not make it easy for me to grab safe for work clips when I was putting this review together. And not to just go song by song, but damn it, the hits in the first half just keep coming. Condemnation Contagion is just a bulldozer of a track that chugs harder than Thomas. more infectious vocal cadences to scream along with on the chorus of this one. Like, I just love when Corpse Grinder like purposely kind of splits up a word in a way that you wouldn't normally say it or even scream it. I think it just sticks in your brain because it comes out as sort of novel and you're like, oh, I haven't heard that word said that way before. And it's almost like a bit of a cheat, but hell, it works. And this is another situation where the lyrics are kind of fun for me too, since they're a little bit more comic booky. As much as I love horror movies and special effects gore, I kind of prefer to keep my violence on the campy side these days. It's like there's enough real violence in the world that I just don't want to be reminded of constantly. Also, that bendy little harmonic riff is everything. Now, if you want something a little slower, there's the mucky, groove-ridden Ritual Annihilation. This one feels like slogging through a waist-high bog in some sort of Predator situation. I love that sludgy brown, 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 slowed down riff. It kind of sounds like the engine is dying on something. And then the speed kicks up again for the chase, and we are just off to the races at that point. Once again, some great little moments for the bass guitar on this one as well. Now, unfortunately, I will say that this album does lose some steam in the second half. They're all good songs, but it just starts to fall into that repetition of usual ideas. And again, that thing I was talking about of all the songs starting to kind of blend together, not only with each other, but with past songs from past albums as well. There's just not enough of those standout, memorable moments, which is why I love A Skeletal Domain so much. There are so many parts on that album that just immediately stood out to me, both in the guitars and in the vocals. This one just needs more fire up the chainsaws! These things are simple, but all important to a standard death metal record. But my favorite track in the second half is easily Over Torture. This one is just another balls to the wall grinder. It's just a pounding, scraping, tearing nightmare. Listening to it is like being dragged over a gravel road at 80 miles per hour. You'll be lucky to have any skin left at the end. I love the start-stop chugs at the end where the guitars drop out and we're just left with that grumbly bass guitar again. And then Cerements of the Flayed also has a nice intro that sounds like a big lumbering kaiju. But ultimately here the conclusion is somewhat unsurprising. If you like Cannibal Corpse like I do, you're probably going to enjoy Violence Unimagined. But if you didn't like them already, there's nothing on here to really change your mind about that either. It's really just kind of a fun popcorn album, is the way I always put it. Turn into my scales, I give Violence Unimagined a 9 for enjoyability. Just a good time. This is that like blockbuster tentpole movie that you go see. You kind of turn your brain off and have a good time with it, and most of the tracks really solid. There's a couple really standout ones again in the first half, but for the most part, it's just a solid listen. I give it an 8 for musicianship. There are some solid moments, and I do think that the inclusion of Erik has kind of stepped them up in some areas, but there's still nothing here that's like so flashy, so amazing to me to warrant giving them any higher of a score than that. And then I give it a 7 for innovation. I mean, that could probably go for like almost every single Cannibal Corpse album. I don't think they're ever really striving to do the next big thing. So from the Roger Ebert mentality of does this accomplish what it sets out to do? Absolutely. I just still kind of prefer a little bit more personally. So a flat 8 and a B- for Cannibal Corpse and Violence Unimagined. Get it again via Metal Blade Records. Y'all, thanks as always for watching, and let me know down in the comments what did you think of this album and what is your favorite Cannibal Corpse album. And hey, stick around, I got plenty more videos coming right after this one. More album reviews, interviews, tier lists, you name it, we've got it. So plenty of reasons to subscribe if you've not already. Also chat with us on Discord and support on Patreon. But that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.
Pick up the pieces of my destruction!
Bad Chris Barnes, get back in your kennel. You know what you did. You made your choice.